Howdy, welcome back to the Heroes Forge. Today we're going to go ahead and hit up some of the comments that we've received. We've had a lot of feedback on TikTok, not as much on YouTube. We'd really love to go ahead and get more from you on the YouTubes, but man, we get people real angry on the TikToks. It's so fun.
The idea of the long-term commitment is a little bit more casual nowadays than I would say in times past, where because of no-fault divorce and all these things, it's like, oh, hey, we're making a commitment for now. Now, I think that one solution to the current marriage problem and how it's really terrible for dudes is to go ahead and have marriage be like a term thing that you sign up for over and over again.
So we're talking about marriage and how maybe we can go ahead and do something like a marriage term thing to mitigate some of the issues with divorce nowadays. And man, people were all over the place in the comment section. So let's see. Here's the first one from Melly RMMG. Marriage is terrible for women because men view their wives as appliances with holes. Okay, so that's a pretty interesting. So she went ahead and her comment went to objectifying women immediately. That's super fun. No nuance whatsoever. I just said, hey, the same could be said on the women's side as well. Thanks for the insight. She did not like that whatsoever. So she's not sure what I meant. I've never thought of myself as just a paycheck and did 90% of the household tasks. Most women who work or stay-at-home moms also do so. Men think that having a job is all they need to do. They've created what they're complaining about. All right, so here's the deal. Most of the comment section is complaining because they've got 50-50 kind of relationships going on where the men just aren't handling their part of the household chores is the baseline complaint. But really, we're not talking about that kind of situation. It's like, look, if the man is leading and taking care of everything at home or in terms of the finances, like, is it really that big a deal that he doesn't do all the things at home? Like, does he need to do the dishes? Does he need to do the laundry? Or is that something that you guys can come to an agreement on? Evidently, that's just a hard thing to be asking nowadays. Let's see. Here's a positive comment. Similar to how people don't work at a company for 30 years anymore, no pension, worse pay, worse treatment, so people leave. So people should have the right, if they aren't getting what they thought they would get. Hey, thanks for the commentary. I said, that's exactly right. Y'all are on the same team. Play the game together and have an amazing life together. Let's see. She says, this would require men to be honest about wanting a mommy bang maid. And I said, yeah, if she's down, then they can come to terms on that. Like, what's the problem? If they're both down for it, why can't that be exactly what it is? Why so limited? Why are the feminists out here trying to take choices away from women? Don't you want women to have all the choices that they could possibly have? Just because she doesn't want to do the same thing you want to do, does that mean she's in the wrong? No, you have just been burned by a few things, and that's okay. I understand you're coming from a place of hurt. You mentioned who's hurt you, so I'm not going to bring it up, but that's okay. I hope you have a wonderful time. Let's see. Here we go. No need, friend. Women are just straight up opting out of men, marriage, and babies. 45% of women who are childbearing age will be intentionally single and child-free by 2030, which, if you actually believe that demonstrably false claim that marriage is terrible for dudes, then you should celebrate. Well, the question about whether they're intentionally single and childless by 2030, there's two sides to that coin, right? A lot of women are single and childless at 30 by that point in time because they couldn't find somebody who would actually commit to them because they've done whatever else in their life that they couldn't be acceptable to the kind of man that they want. And they would rather go it alone than to settle. More power to you, ladies. If settling is not the right answer for you, hey man, I'm not here to go ahead and tell you how to live your life. I'm just saying that maybe there are choices that you made in your past that led you to where you're at today. I know that personal responsibility is not something you're accountable to or used to doing, so maybe it's time to look in the mirror every now and then. Ooh, folded comments. The feminist movement will hate this because women will lose all the power. Well, I mean, yeah, if you go ahead and do actually have terms on marriage, then it kind of gives you an incentive to, be good to each other throughout the term. That's kind of why we threw the idea out there to begin with, right? Is if you have an incentive to go ahead and treat the other person right, it makes sense that they would also have an incentive to treat you right. I know, that's just the idea. I understand that marriage is a long-standing institution and that the idea is one man, one woman for life, Got it. Other people have just changed it all different ways. Hey, we have modern institutions for a reason. Why not go ahead and change some of the laws to benefit both parties, not just men? Jess plays this again, the one with the low-cut tops all the time. They're causing most of the financial burden on their dual income household while keeping their wife's career stagnant. Okay, so she went ahead and made the argument that she had a horrible relationship and that her man was keeping her down, and that when she got divorced, her salary doubled. Great story, but not necessarily the case, right? And the assumption that dual income household is what everybody has and that the guy is just keeping her down, I think that's just a specific case on her end and not necessarily representative of families writ large. Oh, and she also claimed that her story is the majority of women. I'm not sure that the majority of women have had one failed marriage where immediately she doubled her income after getting a divorce, then finds another man and has a wonderful life. I'm pretty sure that's a relatively specific case, but hey, Delulu is not always the Solulu.
The number one reason why a man files for divorce, aside from infidelity, is lack of intimacy within the home, right? So number one and number two reasons both have to deal with intimacy for men. So you can see that it's incredibly important, but when there is a mixed match of expectations and a mixed match of how we prioritize ourselves and each other, you're going to end up with that problem so often where you just end up accepting less and it becomes the norm.
So yes, mixed match is not actually a word. It turns out that when you're talking for 90 minutes, sometimes you go ahead and mess things up. I admit it. I'm fallible. I'm not perfect. Such is life. Mismatch is what I was getting at both times. Thanks for your grace on that. So, comment, sex and intimacy aren't always the same thing. I agree. I don't think that there's anything really to talk about on that one, but if we go down just a little bit more, that same thing was said about 15 other times by other women. We got from Nunya, and a man who end up with lack of intimacy are in that spot because they don't make their partner feel emotionally secure. Women's sex drive is directly linked to their emotions. Hey, look, I agree that emotionality is really important for women, and that's an important part to intimacy. But what I'm going to disagree on is that's not the only reason. Women have this endless bag of excuses. It's like the Mary Poppins bag. They can go ahead and reach in there and say, today I have a headache. The next day, I don't feel safe. The next day, I'm on my period. The next day, I'm just not feeling it right now. Any number of reasons can go ahead and be that reason to not have intimacy or not have sex with your partner. Emotions are one of them, and a lot of it are linked to that. I get it. I think that a lot of this is dudes not knowing how to preheat the oven, but there's another side of it where, like, at some point, women got to go ahead and be responsible for their own pleasure too, because, like, we're not mind readers, right? I know my wife really well, and I can go ahead and handle business. But the thing is, she does really great at asking me for specific things that she needs. And she is an adult enough to take accountability for the fact that there are certain things that she's responsible for. And when we both handle our part of our responsibilities, we're both better off. And so we have a much better life and a much better marriage as a result of it. So it turns out that when we're both responsible, things are great for both of us. And while that sucks that y'all have had those kinds of situations where you just want to refuse sex and all these other kind of things with your man, sucks that you didn't pick somebody that you really like, admire, and respect. Sorry to hear about that. But it doesn't mean that you should go ahead and hold it over his head. Or maybe we can go ahead and do something about it so that he could be better off and you can be better off. It turns out that when both of you are better off, chances are you're going to have a better time together. And that's just life. Ooh, somebody got in on it. Nobody is saying it's always the man's fault, but men feel that intimacy is owed for good behavior. If she's not feeling secure, she's not putting out. I'm going to go ahead and completely disagree on this. If a guy tries to negotiate intimacy with a woman, dude, he's not going to end up with a winning proposition. He may get starfish sex, but it's not like the cartwheels and all the wonderful things that you really want it to be. You can't negotiate genuine desire. Like, if she is hot to trot, y'all are going to have a great time. We have the responsibility of knowing how to go ahead and preheat the oven and really stoke those emotional moments to cultivate intimacy so that we can have an explosive time together. and it'd be great for both of us. Chore play, don't do it, guys. Like, if she says, hey, I need you to go ahead and do the dishes and I'll go ahead and give you something afterwards, unless she has a proven track record of giving you that, you can try it once. And if you don't get your comeuppance, she's not reinforcing that behavior. Your marriage, your life, your relationship. But as a common practice that's put out there on social media, chore play, it's a trap. We had somebody else walk in and said, when you equate sex to intimacy, you are 10,000% incorrect, period. You do not need sex for it to be a relationship. Now, if you define intimacy outside of sex, I'm on board with you. So here's the thing, is like intimacy and sex are technically two different things. For dudes, a lot of times intimacy and sex happen at the same time. It's just one of those deals where the way that our hormones work, that's just what it is. I recognize that intimacy can mean different things to different people. Got it. But sometimes people get locked in on the idea that their prescription or their definition is the only thing. So we never meet to go ahead and understand what the other person is talking about. Now, this person, Lori in this case, was talking about how you don't need to have sex for it to be a relationship. I'm sorry, but if you have a marriage and there's no sex involved, something's wrong. You're just roommates at that point. Something is wrong. Let's see. Furthermore, if you have a friendship and you're having sex, now that's called friends with benefits. Sex is one of the benefits associated with that. But it's still a sexual relationship by definition. Such is life. Sex is not needed for a relationship. Glad we agree. This person, Lori, is like so locked in on her way of looking at things that she just takes a piece of what someone says and not the whole picture and just like locks in on that. Totally common in the way people talk about politics or things that give people some kind of emotional reaction or investment. Very common nowadays. Lori goes ahead and is shaming one of the other content creators that's commenting on this. So he says, if he can't respect that I won't fuck him, then he can leave. Number one reason for male divorce is lack of intimacy. So it seems like they are. Way to run face first into the point. And then she goes ahead and responds, Lemau. Sweetheart, it's not. Like, you're free to Google the definition of intimacy, and you're still having trouble comprehending it. Sex is a form of intimacy, but intimacy does not equal sex, period. Okay, yeah, she's saying the same things, but it doesn't, like, connect because she's fundamentally disregarding what the other person has to say. And then she continues, like, seriously, go find somebody willing to fuck you. I promise your life will be more fulfilling than trying to redefine words to fit your beliefs. Here's the thing. She's going ahead and projecting on him because she's trying to redefine words in the context of what's going on in the video. And she is trying to shame him as if he's not getting any. I'm sure he's doing just fine, but this is just a strategy that people use when they don't have anything better to say, is they'll go ahead and use shame, insults, guilt, or they'll just dig in on the need to be right. Such is life. That's what it is. The number one reason for divorce is men conflate sex and intimacy. Yeah, because they're often linked for men. It turns out that that's important to us. And they're into entirely different things, and men only care about sex. I think that is false. It is just that sex is one of the things that really separates a friendship from a marriage. Like, it's as if you go and you buy a house, and then a couple of years down the road and a couple of kids later, someone goes and they take your master bathroom and they rip it out. While that master bathroom may not be essential to the operating of the home, because presumably you have other bathrooms, I'm still going to be really pissed off that the house that I bought that had this beautiful master bathroom in it no longer has a master bathroom. It is what it is. We had a couple of genuine comments about how she had no sex drive. She got her hormones from his pressure, didn't do anything, but gave her a severe rash because it turns out she was unattracted to her selfish, narcissistic husband who had no concept of what creates real intimacy or her desire for him. Happily divorced now. My only response was, glad to hear it all worked out well for you. Wish you all the best. Notice that she went ahead and threw out narcissistic. Turns out that narcissistic personality disorder only affects 1% of the population, but somehow all these women that are getting divorced, all their boyfriends and all their ex-husbands were narcissists. I don't know where they're finding all these guys, but apparently they're just all over the place. To me, it sounds like it's just using narcissist or narcissism as a pejorative to just shame the guy rather than actually talking about it for what it is. Because Man, we love our shaming language in the comment section.
Can you enumerate a specific right that you do not have that men have? You hear crickets.
Yeah.
You hear allusions to big, nameless, faceless patriarchal systems rather than addressing specifics.
The number one comment unilaterally on this or unanimously was 2 words, bodily autonomy. So that's used as a euphemism for abortion. Yeah. So it turns out that the only right that they actually care about is the right to murder their children. Such is life. You know what? They want it that badly, and they don't seem to understand why people would have a problem with that. And it's not just men that have a problem with it. Other women have a problem with the idea too. Shoot, that could be its own episode. No, we're not going to get into it. That's like 90 minutes on its own. Here's the basics. The kid has its own body, and if you go ahead and exercise your bodily autonomy to go ahead and kill that baby, you're not exercising bodily autonomy, you are murdering a child. You may call it a fetus, but guess what? If you leave it in there for 9 months, chances are it's going to pop out as a human baby. It's not like you wait for 9 months and you're going to get an alien. That's just not how it works. I know people are going to get upsetty spaghetti about the way that I'm explaining things, but hey, we're just going through the comments right quick. Oh, actually, women do answer you when you ask the question. You just don't like the answers. Hope that clarifies things for you. Well, the only real answer in here has been bodily autonomy. So we can get into that at length as to why that doesn't really work out. I love how the left just goes ahead and uses it as if it's some kind of bulletproof argument as to why abortion should be okay. Really, the bottom line is they just want to dehumanize kids so that they can feel better about it and decide that the babies that they want are babies and the babies they don't want are fetuses. And then they can go ahead and do whatever they want with them. So it's about redefining terms and having abortion as an additional form of birth control. That's just what it is. Then they started getting upset about men and bodily autonomy. Every law that's on the books that has to do with personal conduct is, by definition, something that goes against our bodily autonomy. The idea of taxes are directly an affront to our bodily autonomy. Guys being forced to register for selective service is an affront to our bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy as an argument is not great for why women are oppressed. That's just it. People didn't like the tone, the tone police. Gotta love that. A man can go get a vasectomy without talking to anyone. A woman has to fight for any permanent birth control. Now, that's not really a law kind of thing. That's really more insurance companies and what recommendations are put onto the insurance companies in terms of what they must pay for and what they optionally don't have to pay for. It's about who's paying for it, not whether or not you can have it. If you were willing to pay cash to get your tubes tied at 22, you could go ahead and get your tubes tied at 22. The question is whether or not insurance is going to pay for it. The difference between elective procedures and medical necessity. At 22, getting your tubes tied, barring exceptional circumstances, it's not considered as medical necessity. Much to your chagrin, I got it. You want other people to pay for the things that you want? Fair enough. If you want to pay for it yourself, you can go ahead and have it done. I'm sure that there's a bunch of OBGYNs that would be happy to go ahead and get it done for you on a cash pay basis. Not a problem. Let's see. Anthony Mendoza. The whole point is to be treated equally, not to have rights under the law. Both men and women are treated very similarly under social constraints, and between people, there's prejudice that still exists to this day. Got it. So here's the deal. In terms of the law, it turns out that Title VII and Title IX, specifically Title IX, has legal equal opportunity between men and women under the law. It has been the case since the 70s. So when we talk about the wage gap and other things that a lot of people want to bring up as talking points, if you go ahead and equate experience for experience, the kinds of positions that you have, you'll notice that the wage gap is either dramatically decreased or eliminated altogether. Almost like systems of de facto oppression can survive well after laws are created to make the same oppression technically illegal. So we're in 25. Title VII was from the 70s. So we're looking at 50 years since that's happened. As far as hiring practices and things of that nature, women can apply for any job that guys can apply for so long as they can meet the requirements for the vast majority of positions in the United States. You don't have women crying to become bricklayers or construction workers. You're always having them complain about trying to get into positions of power so they can affect the power structures that be. It sounds like there's just a political bend to a lot of this rather than talking about actually living out your self-actualization principles. Has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with power, control, and being able to oppress other people. Let's see. Bodily autonomy, same kind of people believe racism suddenly ended. The second Brown versus the Board of Public Education was ruled on in 1954. This is essentially a sociological gaslighting. The only most disingenuous bad faith far-right people could take it seriously. Okay, there's a lot of words in there. Basically, they're saying, hey, if you don't believe the way I believe, you're a bigot. While there are longstanding repercussions from the inequities that existed in the past, does not mean that those structural inequities haven't been fixed in a lot of ways in terms of equality of opportunity. However, a lot of times people want equality of outcome. And that's just completely immoral in so many ways because you can't go ahead and take from those that are more talented to give to those less talented across any level of endeavor. You're going to end up with so many problems where the people that are productive will be substantially less productive because you're just consistently taking from them. It's kind of like taxes. Like back when we had 90% tax rates that the left loved to go ahead and crow about, very few people were actually paying that. And it turns out that the federal government collected substantially more taxes when they lowered the top tax rate to the 40% area, and then now it's in the high 30s. Sometimes, paradoxically, you need to go ahead and charge less in taxes so that people end up making more and paying more over the long run. Here's Becky. With the right to travel within the country without the access to and authority over my body that the government has changing. Okay, so this is bodily autonomy, and she's just shaming states for banning abortions, basically. Hey, the Supreme Court said that it should go back down to the states. It is. The people in those states are voting for the things. And if you believe in representative democracy or you believe in the will of the people, you should be lauding this. Obviously, you're not happy about it because you didn't get the thing that you wanted and that you think that murdering your babies is a fundamental right. Got it. We're just going to have to go ahead and disagree on that. I think that abortion is murder, and there isn't a whole lot around it. From a legal perspective, I don't think it should be banned, but I do believe that it is murder. If somebody is inside my body and I want them removed, but they refuse, I'm not considered a murderer if they die in the process of me forcibly removing them. That completely disregards the fact that the way they got inside of you in the first place was a consensual act, presumably. The vast majority of cases, that is the case, that you consensually did this adult action that comes with adult consequences, and you just don't like the consequences, and as a matter of convenience, want to get rid of the consequences. The problem is that is another human life. It is biologically distinct from you. It contains the DNA of you and the man that you slept with to make that happen. It is what it is. It is another distinct human life. And when you want to get rid of it, all you're doing is saying that I want to kill it and I want it to not be here. Such is life. Oh, and for those of you that say, hey, they just take it out, they don't kill it. When you take it out of its natural environment and it dies, does that mean that you've killed it? Yeah, it does, because you've set up the circumstances for it to happen in the first place. Just like the kid got in there in the first place. You set up the circumstances for it to happen. Oops, it happened. Now we have consequences. Same kind of deal. Let's see, my bodily autonomy, racism is illegal, so racism isn't a problem energy. Hey, look, so I'm not saying that feminism doesn't have a purpose throughout history. There were some things that they brought up that were helpful. I think that we would have a really healthy discussion on what the pros and cons of feminism were, but the deal is feminism probably just doesn't need to exist anymore. All of the legal rights and protections are already enshrined as a matter of law in the United States. Yes, in third world countries, that's not necessarily the case. I'm speaking on American politics because I'm an American. I live in America. That's the rules under which I live. So that's where the context is. Sorry if you live in a country where that doesn't work out for you. I'd love for you to get in line to immigrate to the United States legally. That'd be awesome. If you can go ahead and contribute to what we have going on here, I'd love to see that happen for you and your family. This guy definitely finds it hard to put his finger on it. Oh, okay. I think that's just a shame tactic saying that I'm not good at sex. My wife would disagree. We have a great time. Let's see. When are the tariffs for podcast equipment kicking in? Ha! Joke's on you. Tariffs only matter if you haven't already bought the equipment. Nice dig, though. Apparently, we've been rustling some jimmies on TikTok, and boy, do they have a lot of things to say. Mostly it's just angry women that don't like what we have to say. That's okay. Most of our viewership is men anyway. But what's interesting is every now and then we've got some really based women in the comments that are just really knocking it out of the park, and it's just great to see. Hey, if you like this content and you want to see other things like it, go ahead and check out this video right here. And if you're new here, I encourage you to hit the like button and subscribe right over here. Thank you so much for watching. Make it a great day.